I can say good evening, everyone. It's already past noon, so it's good to be here again. I love Tunisia. I've been here in 1996 as a young man. I'm not that old, but it feels like ages ago. I was here last June with the Annalyn Foundation. I've met many people already. It's a great pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to meet and make new friends. What you covered on Tunisia and Libya pretty much says a lot about what not just happened in those two countries, but in the Arab world at large. We've lived a pretty much similar environment with the differences of the cultural specificities of each country. But we've lived a reign of tyranny, of the militarization of governance, and we've lived in an era that was pretty much locked in the 60s and 70s of the last century. We have generational gaps between those who lead and those who are being led. I pretty much venture to say that there's the generation Nasser versus the generation Facebook. And this is pretty much similar in most of our countries. And part of the gridlock that we all have right now is that those who are in position of leading the country, even after the fall of those dictatorships, are still stuck up in that mentality. In Egypt, let me give you an example. We have the military council, which is ruling right now, 20 military generals who more or less belong to that generation. You've got the Muslim Brotherhood's leadership, which is also stuck up in the 60s and 70s of the last century. We have the cabinet, which is the youngest probably is 55-year-old, but the rest of them are above 75 years old. You have pretty much all the cartoonish fake opposition parties from before the fall of Mubarak, also in that age group. Now, those who've done the revolutions, or those who were in the front lines, were young people between the ages of 12 to 35. This is a very, very different age group. Has not lived through the oppression of the Bourguiba, Abdel Nasser, and Gaddafi. This is a generation that witnessed a very swift and rapid transformation, social transformation and technological transformation. It's amazing how I can see my parents' performance with technology, my own generation's performance with technology, and my kids' interaction with technology. It's so strange. My little one, he was 5 years, he's 5.5 now, but when he's 7 months, he used to go to the DVD player and click on eject, and we have all the buttons on it, and he clicked on power, then eject. It's as if it's inherent in our DNA somehow. So this transformation this gap is irreconcilable. That is why we having always gridlocks, and we cannot get our message through their thick skins and thick skulls. For them, change takes decades. For us, change is at the click of a mouse. You download a YouTube clip, you watch it, you go down the streets to protest. That's how we react, the difference in reaction to change. That's why they can't understand why those people are still on the street 1 year after the revolution. Because they think, come on, give us a chance to make the difference. Well, you've had all the chances for 1 year, and we're back to square one again. This is just a brief introduction, but I'll walk you through the Egyptian revolution with important dates. On the 14th of January, actually, you'll have to be fair enough, because we missed that a lot in our presentations as Egyptians. We really owe it big time to our sister revolution, the Tunisian revolution. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be sitting here right now, to tell you the truth. So, chapeau. I remember I was here in '96, and it was a very different scene than now. And what I heard about how it was a police state, and anyone who would even venture to go to the toilet of a mosque would be arrested on his way out, just for going to the toilet of the mosque. it's a different scene now. And I know it was a police day. On the 14th of Jan, I was not following the Tunisian revolution day by day, but I saw the Bouazizi effects, and then I saw the fleeing of Ben Ali. And that day, I was at my filthy rich uncle's mansion, and he was having an engagement party, and I saw Ben Ali fleeing, and I started running around the party saying, Mubarak is gonna fall, Mubarak is gonna fall, and everyone thought I was crazy. But I was 100% sure that Mubarak's days were counted. I was, unlike most of the people, they thought, oh, Egypt's not like Tunisia. But I saw it coming. I was even brought up for that moment. And people saw the fear wall go down, just like the Berlin Wall. And when people asked us when we were at our revolution, why did you start your protests right after the parliamentary election, which was 100% rigged, and not even by, they didn't give the opposition any seats this time. It was 100% rigged. I say Egyptians got extremely jealous of Tunisians, because we were always the first at doing anything, so it felt bad to be second, you know. So we also saw that, you know, people can go out and bring down a dictator. So Egyptians had hope. Tunisians brought back that hope for us by bringing down the fear factor. And I remember the next couple of days, there were a lot of Egyptian movements, like the 6th of April, Kulena Khaled Saeed website. They started doing posters for the 25th of Jan. And why the 25th of Jan? Because it's police day in Egypt. And to us, police meant we had reached a stage where the security apparatus was governing our simple everyday life aspects. You know, they're at every ministry, they're at every college class, even not I wouldn't say faculty, but even every class. So they governed our life, and on top of all of that, they were a very repressive apparatus. People disappearing, people being abused, their families being abused. I remember in the fabricated terrorist events of Sharm el-Sheikh, that was actually turned out to be that the Minister of Interior was behind it. They rounded up 5,000 people from North Sinai to get 2 people. They rounded up 5,000 people, their families. The streets that they were living in, any male on that street was arrested in 48 hours. So the systematic, abusive, and endemic violence and brutality that the police used was just overwhelming. And we had enough. And I always joke about the traffic scene in Egypt, and specifically in Cairo, was too bad that we needed a revolution for that alone. You know, so our life had been reduced to an inhumane level. We had lost dignity, we had lost free will, we had lost everything, and we became like animals in a barn. And that's exactly what the regime wanted. They ruined the educational system completely in Egypt, which was one of the top educational systems in the Arab world. In fact, the Egyptian teachers worked in the Gulf, and in some places North Africa, and taught everyone Arabic, math, science, and everything. Now, our own education system is a failing system. And all of those attempts was to subdue Egyptian peoples, to enslave them. And they thought that they can break our spirit and break our identity, and that we become subhumans. But alas, people woke up and rose from the dead. We were resurrected as a nation, and we were all unified in bringing this regime down. The people started chanting. The first chant on the 25th of January was عيش حرية عدالة اجتماعية. It was bread, freedom, and social justice. By the end of that day, at the beginning of the day, it was like a festival, you know, everyone was nice, the police was great and lovely and sweet. Just 3 hours later, they were firing tear gas canisters and all sorts of, violence broke out. Now, by the end of that day, everyone was chanting down with the regime. الشعب يريد إسقاط النظام. And people saw that on YouTube, and Facebook, and your tears, you can't help but, you know, breaking down and crying, because for the first time, people, thousands of people, the largest march or protest we had would have 100 people for the past 30 years. So off campus, off university campus. So to see thousands of people chanting so strongly and persistently down with the regime just changed a lot of people's lives. People just saw that YouTube, opened their doors and left home, only to return after 3 weeks. Now, okay.
Well, after all these presentations and discussions, it feels a bit weird to talk about the Swedish experience, because we didn't really have a revolution these years. So actually, we were asked to talk more about the Swedish political system and the relation between the youth wing, the youth branches, and the political mother parties. So that's what we will concentrate on. And yeah, we don't have that much revolution to talk about our own experience, at least.
No more revolution before lunch.
Yes, so I'm starting. Yeah. Yeah. And if you don't remember, I'm Björn.
And I'm Rebecca.
And we're the spokesperson of the Green Youth of Sweden, belonging to the Green Party. So, where to start? Just the electional system, the democratic system, is that we have a parliament that's proportionally elected. So not the British model that one last man standing, or what it's called. Like, it's proportional. If a party gets 10% of the votes in the whole country, then they get 10% of the seats in the parliament. We also have a 4% limit. If a party gets less than 4% of all the votes, then they don't get any seats in the parliament. We have elections each 4th year, and if you...
Same date even.
Yeah, that's right. And we have, right now we have 8 parties in the parliament. And I'll also talk of 2 of the other parties. One of yours. Yeah, and the 2 biggest parties are the Social Democrats, and you're present here. And they have about 30% of the seats in the parliament. And we also have the moderate party, that I would call, maybe describe as conservative and liberal. You from that party may object. And they have about 30% as well. And these are the 2 main parties, and have been so for a long time. And then we have 6 remaining parties, all of them ranging from 4% to 7-8% of the seats in the parliament. And right now we have a government that consists of this moderate party and the liberals, the center party, and the Christian Democrats. But that's not, they don't have an own majority, so it's a minority government. Yes, so there are, I said, some of the parties. And then we also have the Social Democrats, as I said. We have the Green Party, and we're also in opposition then. And we have the Left Party, they are socialists. And then we also have new, for the first time since the elections, the Sweden Democrats. They themselves maybe describe themselves as nationalists or conservatives, but I would say like xenophobes or racists is a quite accurate description. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the case. So that's about the situation in the parliament. We also have, like, when it comes to the other parties not being represented in the parliament, the 2 biggest ones are the Feminist Initiative, and you got like 1%,
2002, and then 2010.
Yeah.
But next time we'll come.
Yeah, and also we had the Pirate Party that actually they had 2 seats in the European Parliament from Sweden. So they had a great success in the last elections. Pirate Party, and they're very much into like personal integrity, in fighting against the state surveillance of the internet, these kind of stuff.
Started in Germany, correct? It started in Germany.
Yeah, it started in Germany, but Sweden is really one of the main countries when it comes for it as well.
But they didn't get many votes at all in the parliament, the Swedish parliamentary elections. Yeah, okay, so that's like the broad picture. It's also one thing to highlight is that the government and the prime minister is responsible to the parliament. They're elected by the parliament. We don't have any separate elections for the prime minister. Then I'm going to talk shortly about representation in the parliament. We don't have any quotas at all, neither age quotas or gender quotas. And some parties have it within their lists when they present their candidates. They have this quotation. Many other parties have it with gender, so that it's a male and then a woman and then a man and then a woman. But that's not, every party doesn't have to do like that. And in the parliament it's quite equally distributed between men and women. Actually it got worse a bit since these Sweden Democrats, the racist party, got in, because they're almost only men. But the representation is fairly equal. When it comes to young people, we young people are clearly underrepresented in the parliament. Also when it comes to the very old people, like from the age of 65, 70 and older.
No, you're out. Yeah.
Yeah, but the ones being overrepresented are the ones in middle age, 40, 50, 60 years. Yes. When it comes to ethnic minorities or which religion you have, I don't know the figures, but the ethnic minorities of Sweden are also underrepresented in the parliament. You have the limit of 18 to vote, and also we don't have any other limits. You can be the prime minister and be 18 years old. That has never happened, and will probably not happen these coming years. But there isn't any formal problems with being that young.
Because now we are extremely honored to have in our midst Professor Nabia Gerad from the Tunis University, who will, I think, provoke us into even more discussion on the topic that we are here to discuss, all of us, citizenship and democracy. So you have the floor, Professor. Very welcome.
Thank you so much. Well, I'm also happy to have this opportunity to share with these participants from Tunisia, Egypt, and Libya, and Sweden. Yes, of course. To share my thoughts and just some ideas about both my work as an academic on citizenship, democracy, and the role of youth with the revolution that happened in Tunisia, and to learn from you. And to learn from you, I will do this talk in an informal way, so you can interrupt me anytime. And to ask you questions, because what I do, my approach is always comes from the point of view of the topic I talk about. For example, when I talk about citizenship and the youth, I would like to think from your discourse, from your words on this. And this is very important for us to try to give new insights or some new ideas. So to add something, I would like to say that I teach in Tunisia, the University of Tunis, for more than 20 years now, and that I have been, although this is too long, but I feel I'm young after the revolution. So this is the very personal level and academic level. This is the best thing to happen for me and for all the Tunisians, I think. So because from all sides, from, for example, the scholarly work, this event is inviting us, pushing us to rethink about what we already did before in all social science field and human sciences. So I work on, I'm trained, I have a PhD from the Sorbonne University in linguistics and in social linguistics, so the link between language and society and politics. I wrote books and papers on the language policies and the issue of identity and language, etc. And from the revolution, and also I worked on this public space, language use and the images of for example, one idea which is important I will talk about is about advertisement that I study. So these three words, citizenship, democracy, and youth. So in the program we have constitutionalism. This is not my field. I'm not from law school or universities. These three words are very important. So yes, I wrote articles for among you have interest in what I wrote about political what I call everyday activism, thanks to the workshop that was been organized in Sweden by the Social Swedish Research Institute. We had to think about the notion of citizenship, and this is something I wrote about, a small article. Well, I would say that youth is the main word. In the three words category: democracy, citizenship, democracy, and youth. Why? What happened in the Arab world, as you well know, has been a surprise for everybody in Tunisia and outside Tunisia. So the Arab revolutions took the world by surprise. They were spontaneous, without leaders, and free of